designing an easy to follow way to correctly prepare for your next MyLab test. Years of successful students in my class have spoken. So your next MyLab test will be proctored by a live person, a live proctor with ProctorU. So you will not have the luxury of self-proctoring your environment like you did in the first test. So how you prepare for the next test will really determine how successful you plan to be in the course. Some students must begin their test preparation this week if they're in that group of students who either fail a first test or received a 0 because they just absolutely didn't take it at all. All right, so there are proven strategies that will help you to be better prepared. So we're going to go through those. It will not take us long at all. I have in probably every week's Learn How, or at least I know the test week's Learn How and the previous week to the test Learn How Canva presentation, I have this slide where it has how to create a study guide using the MyLab test review assignment and how to prepare for the test the right way. So I put this information out there. I'm not sure how many people actually watched it, but now is the best time for a lot of you to really listen to what my previous students have said that they did in order to do well on their test and to be better prepared for it. So the first thing kind of goes hand in hand, how to create a study guide from your MyLab test review. So when you open your MyLab test review, or actually even an assignment, weekly assignment, you can go to the settings gear when you open a question, right? There's a settings gear, and then there's a print option, and then there is a print homework assignment option. What that does is it takes all the questions in an assignment and it shrinks them down to a handout, right, to a document file that can be printed out. And so you would print that out. Now, here's how that can be used to help you design an easy to follow way of preparing for your next test, right? This is a 4-day process. So the first thing you're going to do is make sure you have your printout, right, of your MyLab test review. And this is going to be 4 days. So this is day 1 out of the 4 days. So 4 days before the test, you're going to spend 40 minutes completing your MyLab test review questions, the first half of those questions. And then you're going to rework those same questions using a similar question option. And you're going to try to do that without using the notes or the question help to quiz yourself. Now, while you're doing this, you should be recording those notes and how you've worked out those problems on your printout so that you can use them for later, right? Day 3. All right, 3 days. Sorry, not day 3, but 3 days before the test. Spend at least another 40 minutes completing the second half of your MyLab test review questions. Then again, rework those questions as a similar question option. Try not to use your notes as much. Try not to use the question help so that you're actually quizzing yourself on those second half of those questions. And then, of course, still recording how you're working those problems out. And writing and recording your notes and steps is important because you need to figure out if you're missing something or missing a question, why you're missing it. So if you're not taking notes and writing down your steps, then you may not be able to figure out what's going wrong. All right, now we are 2 days before the test. So 2 days before, you're going to spend another 40 minutes. This time, you're going to rework all of those questions in that MyLab test review. You're going to do them all from beginning to end. Try to put your notes aside. Make sure you're still writing down as you're working each question out. And what you'll be looking for is which questions are you still missing? Which questions can you not answer on the first try? And you're going to take note of that so that you know which questions you still need to work on over and over and you need to figure out. And then you want to give yourself some time so that if you need to reach out to me, schedule a study session so that we can go over those questions, then we have time to do that. 3 days before test is the perfect timing. 2 days is a little late. 1 day before the test is definitely late. So on that second day of you, 3 days before, make sure you're reaching out to me so we can work through some things. But we can only work through questions and issues if you have things recorded. Okay? So again, that was 4 days before the test, the first half of the My Lab test review questions, and then you rework them 3 days before the second half, and you rework them 2 days before the test. You're doing all of those questions again as if you're taking the test, right? So it's like you're quizzing yourself. You're creating your own little test situation. And now we are a day before the test, 1 day. Make this your test yourself again day. You're going to go back through the questions and see, the logic here is that students must quiz and test themselves without notes and apps and question help to examine what needs improvement. That's really the logic behind doing all of this. When done right, if you are spending at least 3 to 4 days of test preparation, that is always going to promote improved problem solving, and you'll remember those skills longer. When you just practice 1 day for a test, this amounts to cramming. And that's how cramming always leads to you saying, oh, I'm just not good in math. I failed my test. I'm never good at tests. Well, when you cram, you can't expect to be good because this isn't like a history class. You're not just regurgitating facts. You're actually problem solving. So the cramming doesn't work, okay? And so that day before the test, you're testing yourself again with those same MyLab questions. You're working them out. You're not looking at notes because formula sheet is fine, right? Using a formula sheet is fine. But this is when you really have worked out all the kinks and you've gotten down to the bottom of any questions you still don't understand, so that when it's time for your test, it's almost going to feel like second nature. You're going to be working through those problems that you've worked so many times, and you won't feel the nerves of not understanding the questions because you would have already had a lot of time spent working them over, working them out, figuring out what was going on. And you could just really focus on being as precise with your answers as possible. But this is your 4-day process, an easy to follow guide on preparing for your test the right way. And I always have a resource guide that has videos on how each question is to be solved, right? So you're going to use those resources as well, but consider this process and apply this to your next test week. All right, so please reach out if you have questions, you need a study session with me, or you just want to work through or chat with me about your grade in the course. Thank you so much.